What's up guys, this is Shane. This video is about band hip distraction for hip impingement. Now if you have hip impingement like groin pain or front hip crease pain, you may have searched YouTube and you probably found a couple of videos of people saying that band hip distraction can fix hip impingement. And I want to make this video to let you know that that's probably not the case. It can be very helpful and it can make things worse if you do it wrong. So here's what I mean. For example, this exercise right here, where you're going into a hip flexor stretch and the band is pulling you forward more, for some people with really tight hip flexors, that can feel great. For someone who has FAI, femoral acetabular impingement, or hip impingement, sometimes what goes along with that condition is anterior femoral glide, meaning my hip bone or my femur can glide forward in the socket when I do hip flexor stretches, and it can cause pain. And some people don't know, is hip flexor stretching supposed to cause pain? The answer is no, it should just feel like a comfortable muscular stretch. But they keep doing these kind of band distracted hip flexor stretches and they make things worse. So if you're going to do this stretch, there should be no pain in the front of your hip. You should keep your ribs down like you're doing a crunch and keep your butt squeezed, and then carefully go into the stretch and hunt around. But if you feel anything that feels like a pinch or a sharp pain, stop, pick a different exercise. And why this version of the band distraction will not fix hip impingement is because you have to address the tissue quality before you can stretch in this way. So that means you have to make these muscles softer and more supple before you can stretch them, otherwise you're going to keep getting pain. The other major stretch that people advise is to do like a pigeon pose with a lateral band distraction or a posterior band distraction. And that's great, but the same problem exists, which is for some people who have hip impingement, they try to do a pigeon pose stretch and they get hip impingement. So again, these people need to address the density of their muscles by doing massage in and around the hip joint, in the glutes, on the front, on the adductors, before they can even get into a position like this. And once that happens, then yes, this can be helpful because this will pull the hip into a more posterior position in the socket, which usually means less hip impingement, unless all of these muscles are junky and dense, in which case you might just make things worse. And then the most popular exercise that they say that, if you search YouTube, some video might say, this totally fixes hip impingement, which is the band distracted hip capsule mobilization. I know it's a mouthful, but what it looks like is basically this, where the band is distracting posteriorly, and you move your leg into external rotation, and then you drop your trunk to go into hip flexion, or you put your leg in internal rotation, and then you drop into flexion. And again, just like I've been saying about the previous two exercises, that is a great exercise. When I was fixing my hip impingement several years ago, that was really helpful, but it couldn't take me all the way out of hip impingement because I needed to address the junky tissue, the dense muscles deep around the hip. And if I only did this, I would only be addressing one system of the body, the hip capsule. And I talked to hundreds of people with hip impingement who have visited the FAI Fix website, and they email me and they say, hey, I did that band distracted hip mobilization and it hurts. I can't get into it. So I tell them what I just have been explaining, but I also say one little tweak might help, which is if you go into this position, leg swings across into external rotation and you drop down, if you will use your hand to twist your leg a little bit more externally and then move your torso around at different angles, you might be able to get a sensation of deep pressure back here, which is what we want, but not the impingement on the front. So the twisting with the hand helps to exaggerate the external rotation of your femur, hopefully unimpinge yourself and make things better. So try that little tweak, but also know that any band distracted hip mobilization is not going to be the end-all fix. You've got to do stretching things, you've got to do tissue quality things, and you've got to do some strengthening things. So it has to be a complete system to fix hip impingement. So, you know, if you're going to try this, try it out with those tweaks. Be careful, and talk to you next time.